I'm not stressed, you're stressed. Sorry, we're 10 minutes late starting because we have 17 billion clips of videos and one has internet and one doesn't, and whatever. But anyway, bear with us. Thank you for joining us for this panel. And the conversations today, you're going to hear from the amazing people at the Portland Inn project and also from Retrofit Balsall Heath. Now, at the National Retrofit Hub, we have a project that we call Retrofit Connect. And it's the space where we work really closely with community innovators up and down the country who are busting through every barrier known to organisations when it comes to retrofit. But it's all led, driven, governed by the community. And the change that is happening through these community groups is just absolutely epic. And the way that we thought would be easy to tell you that story was by showing you some videos, and that has not proven to be easy. So what you're going to see is a couple of short clips from a slightly longer film that Retrofit Balsall Heath created. Then we're going to swap kit and connect to Ben's laptop, and you're going to see the Portland Inn's films. And we did really persist with this because the films tell such an incredible and important story, and I think that's the most impactful way we can do that. We'll then have conversation with Sarah Mia from Retrofit Balsall Heath, with Anna Francis and Stuart Chapman from the Portland Inn project. And then if you want to talk more about this is an ongoing project for us within the hub, so do stay in touch with us about it because there is so much amazing things to be seen. So bear with me as I do a really bad job of switching between videos. And let's see, here we go.
It's called the worst in Europe for energy efficiency. There are 27 million homes that need to be improved to cut the carbon footprint. This is an avenue of attractive Victorian houses. They were built in the 1890s, they're typical of the area and much of the UK. The problem with these sorts of houses, though, is that they waste a lot of energy and lose heat through their roofs, through their walls and windows.
Well, I've been there 45 years. It's very nice. All look after each other. Within the, very happy.
Retrofit Balsall Heath is a community organisation made up of volunteers from the area, which is diverse, thriving, but it's got one of the highest rates of poverty in the UK. Our aims are to insulate and improve all the homes in the area with no one left behind. We cut bills to create local jobs and training into the green economy, and most importantly, create a model that can be used all around the UK. Our community retrofit model is about people having a say in what they want done to their homes, helping each other understand the process and share information about the benefits and the practicalities. Our model works. With our partners, we've had a 650% increase in take-up compared to the local authority.
After we'd done the surveys, we then sat down with the different households to go through the results of the surveys. Because all the houses were different, all the survey results were slightly different. Some had had new windows, some had had new boilers, others had had nothing done. So we sat down and we went through with all the residents what was recommended for their particular house and to understand that at a deep level.
So they offered everyone, like they go door to door to everyone, and they check and they do surveys as well. And the people, most of the people have done before as well, like we do insulation and we do solar panels before. They offer us as well, like some people have single place windows and they offer them, I think, so single place.
Cold, damp homes are making people sick, especially children. Poor insulation and moisture lead to mold and breathing problems like asthma, causing children to miss school and struggle with their health. Good news is retrofitting can fix this fast. Better insulation, ventilation and affordable heating makes homes warmer and drier, quickly improving everyone's health. Simple upgrades can transform lives, keeping families healthier and protecting future generations.
People come down this avenue and said, "Oh, well, how do you do that?" And I'm saying through West people, "Oh, where did they do that? How can I get that?" So people are interested. So
for me, Hearts and Mind is very much about taking people with you, finding about what motivates people, and so helping and supporting people with some microcosm of what can happen wider in retrofit mostly, and also across the country.
Yeah, I definitely recommend them. I just give them a 10 of 10 because the people are really loving.
Although Balsall Youth is a densely packed inner city area, I think it could become a real exemplar, a shining example of what could be done to transform a whole neighbourhood.
We're retrofitting homes, hearts and minds. Retrofit means greener spaces, stronger communities and new skills for local people. Reimagining not just our homes, but the way we live.
I've been to serve the like the lake is best for people.
And then really smoothly, we're just going to swap over our computers.
Yeah. So when on.
Yeah, I have won an Oscar for film production and direction. It's just natural. I suppose what we really want to do is we want to focus not just on the fact that stories like these are positive community stories and they do give you a warm and fuzzy feeling, but we want to move past that sort of level of conversation and talk about the nuts and bolts, the reality of what it takes to be out there on the front lines of trying to do this work. And that's good. We're going to try and press play. And this is now, so you've seen Retrofit Balsall Heath. We're now going to look, hopefully, at the Portland Inn project store.
It's been interesting for us as a community to learn about sustainable materials.
In the Portland Inn project and the community, there's a sort of spirit of interrogation.
I've been in building trade for 45 years. A lot of this is new to us, but it has absolutely transformed the way I can force about building that on.
It's brilliant to be renovating the Portland Inn pub into a sustainable, healthy building for this community for the future. Right from the start, the community have been involved, designing with our architect Godson Egbo what it would look like.
And then that moved into really considering and looking at more closely the materials that we were using and the responsibility that we have as an organisation and as a neighbourhood.
This is quite a unique project. It was all about consulting the community. I ran an architecture summer school and talked about this new facility and what they would like to see in it. So, I say, well, this is what we're going to do. And they say, why? And then suddenly you're finding better solutions that are technically better, more cost effective and environmentally better.
Community members haven't said it's got a low carbon footprint, therefore we should choose that. There's been a rigorous research process. How is the material made? How far has it come from? Also that it makes the building cheaper to run. We've been on this enormous learning journey, but also the architect and the construction team too.
It's been really good to see Anna and Rebecca involve the community. They've asked questions that we probably wouldn't have asked of the material. One of the biggest things is the block and beam floor that we've used, a more sustainable concrete combined with polystyrene blocks. It's got the same durability that a block and beam floor would have, but it's just better for the building and for the environment.
We're using wood wool instead of plasterboard. We're using hemp for insulation. Stuart, the contractor, has been on the course to learn all about these materials.
Done the rebuilders course from Civic Square. Really interested. Finding so many different ways to build, and we would rather work on projects like this now because you know that it's better for the environment.
People see themselves in this building already and feel part of it and part of its development.
What I've learned from this is the way you can apply new technologies, greener technologies, and not necessarily just stick to the sort of standard. That spirit of interrogation, of questioning, I think that's what I've taken from this project.
It's been really good to see their excitement about those kind of products. Obviously, but us asking more of those questions is actually been a really positive process.
What we've learned is an awful lot about how you retrofit a Victorian terraced house, and now we're starting to think about how can that learning support the neighbourhood for a wider neighbourhood renewal.
It's such an amazing opportunity to have asset transferred this building to our community, and we are really trying to make the most of that.
People are so excited to get in here and start using it because they've been on this journey with us and have created this building with us.
Amazing. We got there. You got to see the stories. That was the most important part. Stuart, do you want to come and join us? So we're going to have a little bit of conversation, and I feel like the stars of the screen are among us here. And when we have been talking about a lot of this work, something that has come up time and again is the bravery of decision making and the tenacity of the people who are driving this forward day and day. And often, I mean, there's a lot that happens. There's a lot of people involved. Oh, I wasn't even following my own advice on the microphone. That's better, right? You have so many committed people on the way, and yes, it's right to be focused on the community organisations, the neighbourhoods, the people coming together. But to then, I feel like to have hit a bit of a jackpot with a contractor like Stuart and Cornerstone Construction is super important. And right at this moment as well, behind us, there's a round table going on with Daniel Blyden, who's running the Rebuilders programme that Stuart talked about. So I'd really love to start with a little bit of perspective from you, the contractor, in this work, because when we talk about the 29 million homes that need to be retrofitted, we're looking at people like Stuart and Hannah, who's here somewhere as well. And this is a family building. There's a family building company. These are the people that we're relying on to like change the face of our homes up and down the country. So really, it's important for us to start thinking about your perspective and all of that, Stuart. So I don't know if you just want to talk a little bit about your engagement with this project and with this community and what it means for you in your building company and your family future. Just a small question to start with.
That's a big question to be thrown in at the deep end. Like I said on the video, is that I've been in the building trade for 45 years, and I'm just used to building what I would call the old school way, brick walls, cavities, the whole thing, and that was there to about. But then when we got this project, we tended to call it a project, which we won, and a few months into the contract, it became aware with conversations with Anna and Rebecca that a sustainable way of building was very important to them. Like, how are we going to incorporate that into this project? Which was new to me because I looked at it and all the insulation had been Kingspan or Retrofit or anything like that was all in this project. So all of a sudden I'm faced with this dilemma that we've now got to try and start finding different materials, real sustainable materials to use. I'm old school and I've never used anything like that. I've ripped lots of it out that we did years and years ago, and we ripped all the label parts and all the air out, and the lime plaster that was in all the old terrace houses. Yeah. But we'd never done anything like that before in the new project. So, and I've always been a little bit skeptic of anything like this, if I'm honest. But the more I looked into it, the more courses I went to, what I went into, you see the impact that building is making on the environment. And it's not a good impact, it's a bad impact. And you can see that. And so the more we looked into it, that's how we then got involved in looking for materials such as sustainable material that we can use, and the internal stud work that will give us a 45 to 50 decibel acoustic as well was really difficult, but we have found something. It's been a bit of a journey to do. So, and in all that, we've also had the partnership with the Portland project, in that they wanted to be involved in all those decision-making powers. Now, as a contractor, I'm also saying, oh dear, alarm bells come in my head, and I'm thinking, you've got 10, 15 people in a room, and they're all going to want something different, which is normal. But they've not been, they've actually good in it. So what we've done, we've researched it, we've brought it to them, we've given them a time scale, and it's been met, because obviously the time scale will impact the completion of the project. So the longer they take, the longer it takes to finish the project. So that's, and out of that, it's developed a really good relationship. Well, I think we've got a really good relationship with the guys at Portland. and it's been and it has and literally has been a really good project.
I think everybody who looks at this looks at the relationships with envy as well, because it's exactly what everybody is like. We're going to do this project, we're going to have this great builder, we're going to be good mates, it's going to work like that, we're going to keep on time, and like it's hard push, but like it seems, I'm sure it's not without its hiccups, but it certainly is possible, and it's so great to be able to see those possibilities. And I don't know if you want to pick up on some of the things that Stuart was saying about the importance of the relationships. And I also really just have to say, I deeply appreciate you saying, and I've seen some of that stuff and I've been skeptical, and then going, but I actually just dug a bit deeper and found the impacts. I think that we need that kind of honesty about like where people are coming from. So thank you for that. But yeah, Anna, do you want to?
Yeah, thank you. So it's been a really interesting project that we at the Portland Inn Project have been working on for about 9 years, aiming to involve the community from the very beginning in, first of all, agreeing the asset transfer of this building, and then working towards getting the funding and working on an architectural plan which is really community-led. So from the very beginning, it's been absolutely community-led, and we've had a community decision-making panel alongside us. And I think that for a contractor can look really scary, as Stuart sort of intimated there. But we've worked together, our organisation and community, with the contractor to find ways that the community can continue to be involved, because I'm sure people who have done projects like this know that you can't just have the community on site. The site needs to be secured, and we need to find ways that the community can still feel completely attached to and embedded in the development that's happening. And what's been so brilliant about working with Cornerstone is that they've worked with us on a time scale so that we have moments where people can come for site visits, but also the communication has been really brilliant from the first day of getting on site. What's been really key to that is Hannah, who's Stuart's daughter, has worked on this brilliant sort of spreadsheet to tell us when decisions need to be made by, so that we as a community can get ahead of those decisions, be involved in the research process into the materials, and really to interrogate some of the data that's out there that tells us these materials are good for the environment. Our community treat every pound that we've spent as their own pound, and so we know that these materials have often been more expensive, so we need to be really, really sure, if we're going to spend a bit more money, that actually what we're buying is really going to be better for the environment, better for the building, better for us as humans once we're inside the building. And what's been really good is that the contractor has really enabled that process to be open and the decision making to be shared. When we've had questions about a material, for example, just to give you one example of a material decision that we had to make, we've got some wooden cladding going on the outside of the building, and we wanted to choose we were looking into choosing a sort of scorched larch, which was much more expensive but is a better material for the environment. And instead of just an ordinary wood that you have to keep painting all of the time, our contractor was able to tell us what the maintenance cost of that will be over the next 10 years, so we could offset the decision making against not just the material itself but also the running and longer term costs. So it has been quite a rigorous and intensive process for our contractor and for our community, but it's also been an amazing learning opportunity for us. So now we've got this learning about the materials. As we said in the video, we're now looking at the housing locally to say, what more can we do to make buildings in the neighbourhood healthier as well.
It's great to hear that, and I think the bit around looking at the whole life costs of particular choices is such a good way to consider the wise choices of what you're investing in. But also, I think you get a greater depth of understanding of materials that you're using. And I'm speaking as a former architect. Sometimes your clients don't care about the materials and they go, I like that one, just use that one. And you don't get the opportunity to really interrogate the impact of that material. And then you find out later, oh, that was actually a really crap choice because now we have all these other situations. So as much as that rigor, especially if you're embedding yourself in that place to look at doing and working with the housing as well, then all that knowledge that neighbourhood community knowledge gets embedded throughout the other projects. Sarah, I wanted to come to you and ask you a little bit about what Anna had started to touch on about the kind of community engagement and involvement in the project. At Retrofit also, it's a whole other story over time of a collective of engagement and different ways of engagement. But I suppose if you could talk a little bit about that aspect of community attachment, but also like some community suspicion and how you're trying to continuously navigate that space. And I don't know if you want to give a little bit of the context around, remind people what they saw in the Retrofit Balsall Heath film and what the movement is all about.
Yeah,
And the microphone has to be right up here. Yeah.
hello. The suspicion. That's a good place to start. I think there is a lot of mistrust of contractors, of builders, of the people who come into your homes that do the work, because then they go away and then you're left with nobody to talk to if things go wrong. And people who are kind of left, who are there, are all the people in the community groups, the people who've suggested that you have this work done, the friends, the neighbours, and this is the issue really. This is the big thing that we're dealing with. We're trying to get more and more people to engage with retrofit, to improve their houses, because we know it's going to be good for their health, but we've got to make these promises, and it's hard to make those promises without having the right contractors. Even now we're dealing with contractors who just out of the blue have called up homeowners and tried to kind of get in the next day because they've got a slot, and that immediately raises alarm bells for people who live in their homes who may never have changed the wallpaper or the paint in like 30 years, and then to have somebody come and strip away your walls, completely change everything, and they might have, seen a bad news story. So it's a huge thing. So I think that first thing of just, understanding that actually somebody's going to be so attached to something that you might think is absolutely worthless, like that old cleaning wallpaper, that's going to be the biggest barrier for them. Does that make sense?
But can you also tell us just one little bit about, because I think maybe people don't know about Retrofit Balsall Heath and the origins, where it was a collective of, I want to say like 26 different community organisations who were just holding each other together in order to speak across different community lines, because we all are present. There's not a definition of a community. There's lots and lots of different ways in which you are in practice in community, and that's sort of also what's building up that trust in your neighbourhood.
Sure. Okay, so the historic thing there is, yes, a few years ago there was a new grant scheme in Birmingham, the LADS.
Yeah, local area deliveries, give LADS and hope to people in the acronym no.
That's it. And you see, previously when the local authority had a scheme like this, there was hardly any uptake. And because the 23 organisations got together and saw this as a real opportunity for the neighbourhood, it meant that there was door knocking. There were neighbours kind of like knocking on each other's doors, talking in community languages, explaining what this actually meant. And it meant that there was a 650% increase in take-up in that area. We had 1,500 people sign up to have their homes retrofitted because they, for the first time, understood what that meant. They understood what that meant for their homes, what it meant for their streets, what it meant for air quality, what it meant for the future, what it could possibly mean for things like jobs and security. And yeah, huge take up. And then we've had 750 homes now that have had work done. And we're trying to build on this. I mean, I can't say that it wasn't without flaws, and this is what we're trying to kind of troubleshoot and improve for the next round of funding. But this is why I start talking about those little things like the wallpaper and all of these, because these are the really massive barriers, and we were able to kind of confront those barriers because you have trusted people talking to you about something rather than people coming, hi, I'm a contractor from such and such, or hello, I'm this outside organisation, they're speaking a different accent to you, I don't live in your area, I don't know Birmingham, I don't look like you, all of these sorts of things. So I think that's the thing, when you've got trusted local community people who are part of the process like yours, you know, who've been there right from the beginning, who live in the same homes, you can go with that.
I have a list of questions, but I'm going to open it out to the floor for questions as well. So there's a couple of hands that have gone up. 4, 5, 6 hands. Okay, I'm going to start here, and then we'll come to Matt, and I'm gonna run at the mic. Sorry. Just say your name and what your question is.
Michael Louis from East Suffolk District Council. 2 questions really, if I may. We have something like 4,000 houses that are still owned and run by the council as a result of previous administrations failing to review the quality of the stock. You now find we have a massive bill for retrofitting probably half of the stock, which we can eliminate. We would really like to get on and build new country outlets. That's what we really like to do, but the Treasury wouldn't just do that. I live in an 1851 old school house, which is single brick wall, single glaze, and I'm of a generation where we used to have ice inside the windows in the tin. And what we did was put on a hat and wear another jumper. We're retrofitting for warmth in the main, but a big problem with the boiler is increasing temperature, so it needs to be both ways, doesn't it? Heating and heat. So, which is the preferred method currently? Improving the installation of a single brick wall system, and equally double glazing isn't expensive. I can't remember how many windows we have, there's probably 18, 20, and I'm never going to live long enough to see any benefit at all, so I'm not going to do it. And there are many people in my position, so they will not in that case, because there is no direct benefit. So that's just a few things. Thank you very much.
It sounds to me that you need a good trusted advocate who does know the types of properties. Do you guys want to have an attempt at quick responses, and we'll go to Matt for a question after that, and you've got it right there.
What table is just to upwards and great question. There you have to use a listen. Where's well?
Well, the Victorian Terrace, which was a pub building. It was 2 Victorian terraced houses, and actually is one single brick thick. And that actually is one of the challenges that we've really faced, because we're trying to create this really amazing creative community building, but we have a limit on space, but we do want to insulate well, and we have had to be really kind of careful about the choices that we make, because you lose a lot of space with some of the material choices that we currently have when we still have to meet U values and all of those things. So it has been a real challenge actually for Stuart, hasn't it, to kind of try and... Do you want to say anything about that?
So one of the problems that we have is that the building trade is very heavily regulated, which is a good thing in some ways, but another way that sometimes it's impossible to reach a U value that the regulations set. So what we've had to do really at that new project is we've had to use some of the materials that we don't probably want to use, because that is a way that we can get the U value. So for example, we can put a timber stud up, and we've had to put a retrofit insulation in and then an insulated plasterboard, so that we don't use a lot of the floor space, because otherwise if you do it sustainably, you're going to lose 4 inches, 6 inches floor space. So that's one of the problems. So the win in that is though that in the floor, like Hannah said in there and in the video, that we've used sustainable polystyrene block that is like a floor beam. We've used concrete. What the concrete we've used, for example, there's lots of block work we've had to use because the building was in such bad state that a lot of the building fell down. The original building had a lot of cake down, so we had to build it back up with block. So we used a block which had less cement in it. And you'd have to forgive me because I still don't know the proper terms. But that was either saving than the carbon footprint or whatever it is of 2 flights to America for the amount of blocks it may used. So if you can do a bit of a hybrid thing, but it is difficult, and unfortunately, people who make the regulations don't understand that because everything's a brand new building. It's so much easier in new palaces to reach the regulations. So
It sounds a bit about the importance of getting the balance right, I suppose, and also having good advice and then having a realistic proximity to your building. And do you want to add to the Anna, and then we'll come to Man's question?
And then I just wanted to answer the point about feeling like you've only got 18 years or so long to kind of pay things back. And I think this is where councils and governments really need to support us in sort of changing our thinking there, because if we're only thinking about ourselves and our lifespan, that's a real problem, because we know already that the climate is really changing, and we want to think about our children, my children.
I'm sorry, because I'm sorry, I shouldn't say anything, but I was like you, that I'm 62.
Right.
I'm too old for all of this, changing all of this stuff and everything, and that's kind of, in some ways it is. I hope I've got another 20 years to live, but I don't know that. The issue is that I've also got children and grandchildren. I've got 3-year-old, 3-year-old, 7-year-old, and a 5-year-old grandchildren. And it's those are the ones that count. It doesn't matter for me now, but it's those that count. So whatever we do, we have to do it with them in mind. That's where I came from in all this. In this whole journey that we've been through with important students, is that we have to do something. We've messed it up. Our generation have messed it up with bad building practices. So we've got to start trying to make it better. We won't solve it all now, but we can lay foundations and do things that are better for those guys to inherit. And that's my...
Hi Stuart, it's Matt Mawoya, editor Refurb. Hiya. So when we met, I interviewed you at the Rebuilders programme. You were very unusual because you were a builder that took time out to learn about some of the more sustainable products and materials that are available. Now, your interview is one of the most popular pieces of content we've done in the magazine. And one of the things that people are searching for is healthy building materials. I want you to tell us about the impact on your team of working with materials that have literally no requirement for PPE, and whether that's slowed you down, sped you up, and what sort of impact learning about these new materials and actually using them since I spoke to you there.
Okay. So I can only talk about the Portland project because it's the only project that we worked on at the moment. Hopefully there'll be more projects down in the future. But one of the things that we've worked on is to use sustainable insulation in the stud-work. So the internal stud-work, we're getting the Pavernex fiberboard, we're going to put that in. The good thing about it now is when we put loft insulation and insulation into the stud-work, the internal stud-works, we don't have to get suited and booted in big white masks and face masks, and then that's don't have to spend the rest of the day trying to get themselves all itchy and scratchy and everything like that, because now they can put that stuff in, cut it, put it in, and just dust themselves off all the way. So although those materials may be a little bit more expensive, which they are a little bit, until they start getting used more, it's like everything, isn't it? The more we use something, then hopefully the cheaper it comes down. There is a saving in the amount of time it takes to do stuff because they don't have to get suitably booted in. Also, the guys aren't working in horrible conditions because I also have a duty of care for the guys who work for the car. So we want to try and make it as pleasant for them to go in the lofts and screw in the work, because I don't do it anymore. They're screwing up into the floor and getting all those awkward places, and then come out and over scratchy and itchy and stuff like that.
Sounds like a positive impact. Because of the slight tech delay to starting, we might have to go to some final thoughts. And I would really like to go to each of the speakers and just to ask you I had a couple of questions, but I think I'm going to jump to the end one. In your mind, what do maybe policymakers and decision makers, what is the 1-2 things that you think that they can really, really need to just get on and do to make this kind of work more supported, more frequent, more day-to-day? So, Dana, do you want to start?
So as I was starting to say about the thinking longer term, in our neighbourhood we now have a 100-year plan because we are really frustrated by the really short time spans for example, spending funding on really, extremely needed things that we need to do, which makes it really difficult for small community-based organisations to really make a difference. So we've created our own 100-year plan so we can fit funders and the council and all of their kind of approaches into our longer-term vision, and then advocate that they start to, really change the time frame for things so that we can, work with them longer term. And I think the other thing is that it can be really, it can really slow you up. All of our hold-ups over this sort of 9-year period have been when we're waiting for the council to sign a document or to get back to us about a lease, or to, whatever it is, whenever it is an external thing involved with the council. Although we have a good relationship with our council, it has really slowed us up. So please try and speed up the processes for getting leases signed, asset transferred, agreed, because we're really quick. Once we've got those decisions in hand as a community organisation, we are really fast at acting and responding and doing the research we need to do and then implementing it. But we just find that the time frame is just stretched when we try and work with our council, sadly.
And just before we come to Sarah, specifically on this point, everybody talks about the evidence around the need for better trust and relationships and solid relationships. And it is recognised that it takes time because it is built on relationships which do take time. But I think it was Araceli Camargo from Centric Lab who said, yeah, but slow is smooth, but then smooth is quick. And so if you're willing to put in those the hard yards of building the relationships, then when stuff moves at the speed of trust, it is so fast. And I think that's the thing that is always missed out in that equitable conversation around oh yeah, but it takes time. Yeah, it does, but then what it yields is wonderful, as you all have proven as speakers. Sarah, what's your ask and demand of policymakers, decision makers, or what's what would be your call to action?
I completely agree with you about the speed and trust. I think it's about recognising and celebrating what's already happening and supporting that. Supporting that with funding. You just have to, because as you say, it's volunteers and organisations taking time out of what they do to make this happen, but they're making it happen because it's so important. So if you can actually get in there, fund those people, fund jobs around this, then you'll create trust around it.
And I think the funding, and if there are any philanthropists among you all, don't ask community organisations to do anything unless you are in 6-figure sums. Just don't do it. The risk isn't worth it. The amount of time it takes to bid into projects, to do all of that, and that's free labour. So when I see bids coming through from community funds saying, you too could maybe have this £10,000 pot, is not worth it. Don't do it. Don't do it to them. So, up the game, put the money where it can happen, because you can see what's possible here. And Stuart, last word from you. On your ask, what would be the thing that you would like to see more of, or maybe it was something about the regulators, I don't know.
I was about to say, I think I mentioned that earlier, saying less regulation. We have so many homes to build, and I'm not going to be a big builder that's going to build a big building, big houses, estate with thousands of houses. So I think to make it easier for to retrofit is there, because the houses are already there, and although they are bad, a lot of the times they're in bad condition. So they need to be to be refurbished and stuff. But we're just trying to make those regulations a lot easier, so we can make it easier, so we don't have those obstacles of having to buy so many different materials. It's like bigger, I agree. And then I think that will then not put off builders like yourself, because in the past, maybe 10 years ago, I would not have touched this project with a barge pole because there would be too much hassle. But having done it, the other thing is,
this is the best cheerleading I've ever had. We have got to, I know we do, we're nearly there.
The other thing is that if you are doing a project, get your contractor in early. The problem is a lot of the time we have to tender for a project and then maybe 4 or 5 people tender you as well. And in the past, the majority of people will go for the cheapest quote. And if you get your contractor in early and you talk to him and you tell them what you want, what the brief is, and we want these materials, we want this is how it's going to be let. Here at the same time, you will spend those obstacles at the same time. So this one.
I could talk about this all day long. I do, in fact. So if you want to get involved in the community retrofit workstream, the cross-cutting theme in the National Retrofit Hub, please do get in touch with us. And you can follow the stories of what these amazing innovators are doing up and down the country. But thank you, Sarah, Anna, Stuart. It's been really, really wonderful. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.